Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome here to the TLP Canada studio. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and here at the Launchpad Network, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And can you believe it? We are here. Finally, we are back for another launch of Starship. SpaceX is counting down to launch of Starship IFT-2. We've had a little bit of a delay getting our live feed up from Starbase, so we apologize for that. We're working to get that patched in as soon as possible, as well as getting a live feed in from some partners in Hawaii. So hopefully we get to see Starship enter. But we want to bring up the countdown timeline as we can officially proceed to that go, no go, and that propellant loading has now begun on the vehicle. That is a really big moment in this count that SpaceX has pulled go. The weather is good, the range is good, and the vehicle is good. And we are actually going into this count now, T-minus 1 hour, 29 minutes, 6 seconds, and counting until launch. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. As I said, my name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad. Take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We'd love to give some shout outs there. And we're going to be answering your guys' comments and questions throughout today's stream, so you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we will be answering those. Also, we have a poll in the chat. We want to know from you guys how well you think today's flight is going to go. Are we going to see Starship fly all the way over to Hawaii and do a belly flop re-entry into the ocean? Or do you think that we're going to see something happen with a RUD or an FTS at another stage of flight? I'm going to say it right off the bat. You're going to have to bear with me with my voice. I have come down with a flu. That is why I'm not down at Starbase. The last few days we've been fighting it, trying to get back to 100%. We're not there, but it's Starship. We couldn't miss this, so I'm glad that you're joining us here, but you're going to have to just bear with me every now and again if I have to take a quick commentary pause. But we appreciate your support and being here. We know there's many options on where you're watching your live streams, and we appreciate that you're here helping support the Launchpad and what we do. I know we've got a few of our rocket chasers out in the field. John and Sarah are just finishing getting their live feed up, and once we have that, we'll patch that in. We also have Gavin, who's actually on vacation in the Bahamas right now on a cruise ship. But if all goes well, we'll see if he is able to capture anything of Starship possibly flying overhead. It will be daytime where he is, so it might be a little bit harder. And then we do have two partners over in Hawaii who will be sending us a live feed a little bit closer to liftoff while we count down and hopefully have a view of Starship re-entering just north of Hawaii. But it's a big day for SpaceX, a big day for Starship, and we have had confirmation that they are now into propellant loading. The moment we get that live feed from our team down at Starbase, we will patch that in. We appreciate your guys' support on that, but it's amazing that we are back here for the second flight of Starship. Lots of people just jumping in the chat. Stealth Mode is watching in Florida. Good to see you as always. Lots of regulars in the chat. Amy and Helen. Thank you so much. It's good to see all of you. We got J.A. is in Germany. We got Sparky in Florida. We got Zawar in Pakistan. We got Nicolay in Spain. We got Philip in Huntsville, Alabama. Good to see you. Dan and Sam are in Cincinnati, USA. Great to have you here. This is Space is in Russia. Ayushi, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, is in India. Bob is in Sacramento, California. Ziyang is in Beijing, China. I know with the first Starship flight, we were one of the few streams that actually got broadcasted into China, so that was a really awesome opportunity getting to share the first Starship flight, because as we always say, space is better together, and Starship's going to be a big part of us getting to go back to the moon to stay and on to Mars. So let us know in the chat where you're watching from. As I said, send in those questions by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage the like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us here and watch together. While we wait for our live feed to come up, a couple things I wanted to invite you into. We do have our TLP Discord. That's where our space community hangs out in between launches. We've got live comms and chats about everything space, and we're going to be doing some more community hangouts in there starting up in December as well. So definitely consider joining us over there on the Discord if you're interested in space and just want to be part of an awesome community. If you like what we do, there's a couple ways you can help support us and help us expand our equipment to bring you even better coverage of everything happening, not only in North America with NASA and SpaceX, but with partners all around the world. And we're excited to be bringing a bunch of coverage out of UK and Europe starting in the new year. So make sure you're following along for that. But to help support that, you can hit the join button down below on the stream. Starting at 99 cents a month, you get that really cool helmet next to your name and access to some of our custom emojis like Go, No Go, SpaceX, and things like that. So consider taking a moment, hitting that button. It really does help us out. If you want to upgrade your membership, head on over to our Patreon. That's where you can get kind of a secondary membership starting a few dollars a month, and you get discounts on our merch, behind the scenes access, and different things like that. Now, the last thing, of course, getting all the YouTuber stuff out of the way, is you can head on over to the shop, our TLP Network shop. That is where you can get your new limited edition Christmas gear. We've got our ugly Starbase shirt for this year. Super happy and proud of how this came out with all the high bays and vehicles and everything. We've got a few other items on there as well. We do also have our... Starship went flying. We do have also our We Are Going Ugly Starbase, or We Are Going Ugly, shirt. These are also available in hoodies, kids' cuts, women's cuts, blankets. So definitely check those out. These are only available till Christmas Day. So if you want to pick up one of those, consider ordering those. And it's a great day to do it because not only do we have new pricing, which is awesome, it's launch day, which means if you use promo code launch day, you can get 10% off of everything over on the store as we continue to count down now T-minus 1 hour, 23 minutes, and counting till launch. If you're just joining us, though, we are just waiting for our feed to come in from Starbase. We've had a little bit of a tech thing this morning, as you do with these launches, but we are continuing to watch that countdown clock. You can follow along on the side here. We have had the LOX load begin on the vehicle, and we're going to keep a close eye on the count as we continue through it. The next milestone we're expecting to have begin will be the ship fuel loading at 1 hour 17 minutes into it, and I actually should be pushing this one further along because we'll have both of those boosters now loading, both the liquid oxygen and the fuel. So next milestone will be the ship loading. That'll begin 1 hour 17 minutes is when they'll start flowing the liquid methane, and liquid oxygen will start flowing 1 hour 13 minutes. And then that's the last big milestones until 19 minutes in the count when they begin the engine chill of those 33 Raptor engines. See some questions coming in the chat, so you can keep sending those in by tagging us at the launch pad. Nebulit R&D is saying, hello, we're Nebulit from Malaysia. Not sure if you remember us. What are the chances of Starship completing the test flight today until splashdown? I recognize the name, and thanks so much for being here. Great to have you guys watching from Malaysia. I think I don't think we have an exact number. I think Elon gave it a 50-50. If I remember correctly. It's been a while since he's given us like an odds on how well it was going to go. I think everyone thinks it'll get through hot staging, or at least get to hot staging. So it'll get further than it did last time. If we can see hot staging and separation and the booster begin its boost back, that means we've succeeded further than we did in the first flight. If they maintain control for more than a couple of minutes, even if we don't get through hot staging, but they're still in control and can FTS it if they need to, that is still better than the first flight. So there are lots of technically wins that could happen here today, but if they get all the way to Hawaii with Starship and do the belly flop into the ocean, we'll just have to wait and see if that happens. If it does, it's going to be about 90 minutes after launch, so we'll be staying live through all of that. We'll be patching in SpaceX, who will begin their live coverage in about 50 minutes from now, and once they do so, we will patch that in and listen in to all of their live updates, as obviously they're going to know far more than we are, but we are waiting for our live feed from Starbase just to get underway here, so bear with us as we await for these technical things to decide to work themselves out. Woofy says the launch pad, not necessarily Starship exclusive, but are rocket fairing/payload bays big vacuum chambers, or are they pressurized? Wouldn't the second stage option be a problem at separation? With the second option of it being pressurized. Um, that's a really good question. Normally, I mean, it depends on the vehicle. Starship's pressurized, but the cargo area of it, I don't actually know if the cargo area is pressurized for the test flight. That's a really good question. I would assume to some point it would have to be for structural, just because Starship is basically built like a pop can. So I would assume so. But generally, if you're thinking like Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy and stuff, no, those would not be pressurized. That's why it doesn't have like a big puff or anything when it reopens. It has fairing deployment. They are depressurized areas. So they change as it launches. But great question. Thanks for sending that, Ian. Catching up on the chat here. Tristan saying, how does Starship maneuver in space with the vacuum engines can't gimbal? So it has thrusters on it. So they're not in these models. This model was, I mean, we've been covering Starship for years now. It's been over almost 3 years since we covered our first one on it here on the launch pad. But there's thrusters all along the sides of it, so it can, just like Dragon, push and move however it needs to. And then the vacuum engines give it its thrust. So if they need to turn, they'll just fire the thrusters. They would turn, and then they would fire that way. So that's how they would be able to control that. It has thrusters there. John, at the launch pad. Why are you not at the launch pad? Two big reasons. One, I got the flu, and I didn't want to risk getting anyone else sick down there. This is a big event for everyone, so I didn't want to. If I was going to be there, I wanted to be involved, and I didn't want to risk getting other people sick with Starship happening, but also going into the Thanksgiving and holiday Christmas season. So that was part one. Two, the cost of last-minute flights. I love your guys' support, and you guys have been amazing. I did not think that it was a smart use of your guys' money to spend $5,000 to $6,000 to go to Starbase for a week with a not guaranteed launch happening at that time. And then by the time we did have confirmation, which was basically like 3 days ago, it would have been $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to get down. Unfortunately, flights out of Canada are really expensive to get into the States. It's more than a full day. Like, most of the flight options were anywhere from 18 to 36 hours, even though we're on the same continent. I really need a Starship. So, Elon, if we can build a pad here in Edmonton, that'd be great. Do a Earth point-to-point to Starbase. But I wanted to respect your guys' investment into TLP. We're going to save the money that was donated by people for me to try to get down there for this flight, to put that into going for, hopefully, the third Starship flight in, hopefully, the early new year. But we're also working on me heading over to Europe and doing some factory tours. So if it's not going to the Starship, it's going to go directly into that. I've still yet to take a paycheck from TLP. It's all getting reinvested into it, so don't worry, it's still going to go to use. But between being sick and just the cost of it, it was not a valid opportunity. We do have two of our brand new rocket chasers joining our team, John and Sarah, who are down at Starbase, and we're just waiting for that live feed to come in. So this is the first time we're doing it with this system, and we're just waiting for that to patch in, and once we have that, we will do so. So I appreciate you guys bearing with us as we navigate this fun. Kind of a third reason, I had a personal thing happen with some family stuff that had to take some attention as well. So I wasn't sure if it was the right time to necessarily go away as well. Steven, what's the latest on Malaysia's Space Ant D1? Well, I would have to look into that, Steven. If you want to send that to me in the Discord, I can try to look into that following Starship. Bravo Alpha, we will work on getting that updated. Sometimes the gifted memberships don't show up as quickly. Chaz Floyd, I'm very interested to see the aftermath of this next launch and how the launch pad has been upgraded and how well it takes flight. Absolutely, Chaz. That's one of the big questions. How well will the pad maintain? Could we see another ship and booster roll out in, a week's time and start testing and we go for another flight? Big question. Could we see a full stack before the end of the year if this one launches? So we'll have to wait and see, but that's a really good question there. Toledo, thanks so much for being here. What's up? Good job. Love the shirts. Appreciate it. Ricky Powell gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Ricky. I appreciate you supporting us in that way. It really does help. Steven's been a member for 6 months. If you guys are just joining us, though, welcome. You can send in your questions in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live. ICG, how do I claim a gift? So you have to go, it'll either give you a pop-up, or you have to go into your YouTube settings and allow that you can accept gifts, and then it's random by YouTube on who gets them. But it's generally who's active in the chat is actually able to get it. And I think Woofy has a really good point. It won't fly over Hawaii. It's just north. So if these are the islands, it comes here and lands like here. So it's just to the north west of the islands where it will go. John Kippola, thanks, John. I appreciate that. Feel better. I may get some of your shirts depending on size. NASA shirts are expensive and not my... that's one of the big things that we've always tried to do with all of our merch. I believe we offer up to, up to 5, sometimes even up to 6XL on some of our stuff. Obviously, slightly bigger guy. Not slightly, but bigger guy. And I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to get something that they feel comfortable in. And I design everything that if I wouldn't wear it, I don't release it. So everything is designed on that. And we try to design all of our merch to be stuff that you would actually want to wear out and about. Like we have our new Dream Chaser shirt, because we're all getting super excited about Dream Chaser. We know we got lots of fans and supporters over in India. Super excited to have this one for future India live streams with ISRO, but something there, and a little bit something fun we're doing. On some of them, we're doing the custom helmets on the sleeve. So something to check out there. But we're here for Starship. We're super excited about these. I do have another Starship shirt, but I think I left it upstairs. I was wearing it yesterday as we continue through the count. T-minus 1 hour, 13 minutes. We should be getting into ship fuel loading at this time. Just waiting for confirmation of such as we continue through the countdown here today. If you guys have questions, keep sending those in, and we'll work on answering those live to the best of our ability as we continue through the countdown here this morning. Appreciate you guys bearing with us. We wait for our live feed. Helen sent a donation, but wasn't sure if you received it on the GoFundMe. I believe I saw it, Helen. I'm pretty sure I did. I appreciate that support. Matthew, when will the Starship be available? Ooh, which one are you meaning, Matthew? Sorry. Dan and Sam get better. Thanks so much. Helen, feel better. Stephen, oh, you're Canadian. I could pull out my Canadian accent if I wanted to, but we're fighting just to stay live this morning. But we appreciate your guys' support being here. Dan and Sam, what do you think the odds are, at least, of part of Starship splashing down near Hawaii, or in Hawaii? I think one of the big questions I had, and I don't have an answer for this, is if you look at the exclusion zone for Starship, it extends almost all the way to Florida, and then it ends for the marine hazard area, and then it starts back up in Hawaii. So one of the thoughts that I was having is, does that mean once we have booster separation and ship ignition, do they have to decide to commit to flying Starship to Hawaii, or FTS it before the end of that exclusion zone? Because I can't imagine they're going to launch it, have engine cut off, and then it FTS over the southern horn of Africa. And because there's no exclusion zone, so there's a risk of, the debris. So I feel like they have to make this decision over the Gulf. Commit to Hawaii or bring it down early. We'll have to wait to see. Bob Hope, do you think 33 engines is a good idea? I think it's what's needed. So I'm not sure that there's an option there. Stealth Mode, let us know when the IPO is available. We'll do. Ginger, be sure to drink some green tea, honey. It'll help with the symptoms. I appreciate that, Ginger. I'll definitely be doing that. This is full. I've got another one of these, and hopefully it'll be enough to get us through the countdown here today. Checking if we have that feed yet from Starbase. I didn't want to push the stream later and later because I know you guys are excited, and I appreciate you being here and bearing with us as we await that live feed. Worst case scenario, we'll have SpaceX's feed here in about 30 minutes, and we'll patch that in. But Dan and Sam, what do you think the odds are that it splashes near Hawaii? I think it depends if they have that commit criteria from the launch or not. I think that's ultimately going to be one of the biggest points is, do they commit to going to Hawaii? Ricky Powell, this is cracking me up. Holding a hunting rifle in one hand and trying to watch Starship on the other. That's awesome. Yeah, it's everyone's just watching it where you can. Zawar, will you be live streaming Chang 6? Possibly. I'd have to double check on that one. Athena 6, we are T-minus 1 hour, 9 minutes, 26 seconds, and counting till launch. We're just waiting for this live feed from Starbase from 2 of our rocket chasers down there. And no, you can't be gifted multiple times in the same time. So, like, if you're already a member, you can't be gifted a membership. And then it's after it expires, yeah. Bear with me, appreciate it. Mistress, the Xmas shirt looks neat, appreciate it, thanks so much. It says the pad is open on the countdown. You should change. Oh yeah, we meant to push that feed over to here. And Steven, I love that comment. Just means your heart is bigger than most. I appreciate that. That's a great way of looking at it. Appreciate that. You're just joining us, though. Good morning. Welcome here to the launch pad. We are counting down to the launch of Starship. T-minus 1 hour, 8 minutes, 20 seconds, and counting. We are expecting that fuel load will be beginning here on the Starship vehicle. Now, keep in mind, we do have a tighter window here this morning. Today's window is only 20 minutes. So, if for any reason we have a longer period delay in the count, it is something that they will have to deal with. 6 minutes ago, propellant load has begun on the Starship upper stage. That's why you saw our screen update there. Doing this solo here today while managing a flu, so bear with me. But we now have propellant loading of liquid oxygen and methane on both the first and second stage of Starship. So we continue to count down to launch here this morning. Ooh, hello, someone's excited. Thanks for being here. Catching up on the chat. Wolfie, is SpaceX streaming on YouTube, or are they committing to Twitter X? They are only on Twitter, or X, excuse me, and on their website, which is just an embed of their Twitter as well. Dr. Parmeswar, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Hey Zach, what is the light conditions there at the launch site? Will there be sunlight during launch? Yes, sunrise is 10 minutes prior to launch. So we're going to have a beautiful, like, golden hour launch. And I just heard from our team down at Starbase, we should have this live feed shortly. They're working a tech issue. But that's what happens with technology. We're super excited to be working on some other things down at Starbase as well, so stay tuned for that into the new year. 24/7 camera, anyone? I'm just saying. But that'll come in the new year at some point. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. Make sure you take a moment, send in questions in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. Chaz, hey Zach, what is the list of reschedules if they don't make it today? Great question. So they do have road closures for tomorrow and the next day. And really interesting thing to point out, it's a Saturday today. It's a weekend. We very rarely see SpaceX do road closures on the weekend because they are extremely limited to how many hours they can close a road per calendar year on weekends, because that limits access to the beach, which is a public beach. So very interesting to see SpaceX not delay from Friday to Monday, but say, no, we are ready. We have our license. We are not waiting. And they are using some of those limited hours for this year on an attempt here today. We have to have a delay. Depends on what the issue is. They could try again tomorrow. It also depends how long into propellant loading we are. Are they able to save enough propellant? If we have a fully stacked Starship that's fully fueled and they scrub, I'm trying to remember back to the first flight. I believe we thought it was a 48-hour delay because they would have a fleet of like not hundreds, dozens of fuel trucks to come refill the tank farm. So I'd have to double check on that. But tomorrow or the next day would be probably the earliest. But again, it depends on what it is. We saw them take an extra 24 hours and they destacked the ship, took the hot fire ring off, changed out all the actuators on the grid fins, put the hot fire ring back on, and then put the ship back on. And that's quite the work to do in just 24 hours. Bravo Alpha wondering, no worries about your headphones dying there. I will try to look into that post stream. We did have an issue with it pulling names with gifted memberships and stuff, so we will try to get that solved for you, Bravo. Apologies about that. Dogtones is asking, good to see you. How soon do you think we'll see the first Texas Bexzilla catch? So Elon said they won't try a booster catch till flight 5 or 6. So we got a few more flights to do. There will be sunlight during launch. TML, Zach, you're doing a fantastic job as always. I appreciate that. I really do. I know we don't have our live view just yet. We're doing the best that we can. But I appreciate your guys' support as we do this. Doing this pretty much solo here today while navigating a flu. So I appreciate your guys' patience and your support. Andrew, how much fuel is on Starship and what is the fuel's weight? That is a great question, and let me get you the actual amounts to it so I can give you that right amount. It carries 1,200 tons of propellant, and then it can carry 100 to 150 tons of capacity on a flight there. So gives you a rough idea. Now, Elon did hint at the possibility, that was the Starship has 1,200 tons of propellant. Super Heavy has 3,400 tons of propellant. And then it's all the Raptor engine and the Raptor vacuum engines that are what powers the vehicle. Elon did say they were looking at an increase of, I believe it was 10 to 20%. So it is possible we will see Starship stretch again to give some more propellant load. The question is, was that to Super Heavy, Starship, or both? We're not too sure. Paul Bennett, hi from Cape Town. Great coverage from the Launchpad. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Racketing Club, question, was the Launchpad and the water flame diffuser thingy ever tested under the full load thrust of a proper period of time? So they did do a static fire with 33 engines. And they did run that for a few seconds, but we have not had something like today where we will have ignition of the Raptors 3 seconds to launch and then liftoff. The flame diverter will begin its activation 10 seconds into the with 10 seconds remaining, so it will be fully on before ignition. And from that static fire test with the 33 engines, it did look really good. There was still some stuff that got thrown around, but anywhere near what it is or was during the first flight. I will say, I said this during the first flight, and I'll say it again, if you are down in the area, one, if you take photos, videos, send those to us. We'd love to see your experience was like. If you happen to live down there, we are looking for a couple rocket chasers that'll live down there to join our team, so you can connect with us about that later. But if you're down there watching the flight and you happen to be listening in, please, 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 safety first. This is an experimental vehicle. If you see this thing explode on the pad or shortly into flight, this is not the time to try to take a selfie with it. If this thing explodes on the pad, it is like a nuclear blast. The best thing for you to do is to drop to the ground, cover your ears, and open your mouth to help stabilize the pressure of your body. This isn't something that SpaceX or many other channels talk about. This is a dangerous situation that is very open to the public. Just 5 miles away, there are people watching in Mexico only 3 miles away, and in a few private properties as well. So please, 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 safety first. I got sick after the first Starship flight, and I was in a public safe zone. That wasn't even a SpaceX one. I was just on public. I was outside the exclusion zone, and I still got sick from the first flight. So please take that safety. That's priority one. Rockets are awesome, but you want to make sure that you can see and enjoy them and hear them, just in case there is an issue. So please make sure you're careful with that. Woofy, if refilling the tank farm limits launch cadence, how will they handle this once they get Starship active for commercial launches? A bigger tank farm, fuel production at the pad? That's a big question there, Woofy. So out at Kennedy, they have pipelines. So they can pipe in fuel rather than having to use trucks. That's one of the big limitations to Starbase is they're not connected to pipelines for it. So that's one of the issues there. Starbase, Elon said it February 2022 when we were down there for the Starship update in person. He said, Starbase is now research and development and testing. That's all it will be. It's not going to be this gateway to Mars that was their initial idea, or at least not right now. Kennedy is going to be that. So there are a lot of talks of SpaceX getting ready to develop the new Launch Pad 49 at Kennedy Space Center. So they would have 2 Starbase pads at Kennedy. We'll see if even more end up being developed down the road. But yeah, Kennedy's where we're going to see Starship really start to take flight first. And keep in mind, the first big customer of Starship isn't any customer except SpaceX themselves for Starlink. They need Starship to work for Starlink. So that's something really important to think about. Bear with me 1 second here. Nothing like the biggest stream of the year and having the flu, right? Trishan, can rocket development be done with 50 million budget? I mean, a model rocket, maybe. Yeah, model rocket. Elon said they've put in, I believe the last time we had a number was on the means of 3 to 4 billion. Maybe up to 5 billion at this point. I'd like to point out it cost NASA 26 billion to get to Artemis 1. So, they're doing pretty well. Catching up on the chat. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. Stealth mode, I saw pics of the tower here in Florida, so awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to see that tower built at 39A. If you end up going to Kennedy Space Center and doing their Explore tour, you get right up next to it, just like you would at Starbase, but at Kennedy. So it's really neat to be up close. I've been lucky to go out to 39A a couple of times earlier this year and get to see the Starship pad while we were out there for Axiom 2 and for a Falcon Heavy. We're now under an hour. I can't believe I missed that. 56 minutes, 46 seconds, and counting till launch. Propellant load underway on both vehicles. It is getting closer. Dan and Sam, thanks for doing the stream while you were sick. You're my favorite channel. I appreciate that. I appreciate your guys' support. I really do. It means a lot. I am like most of you having the biggest FOMO of my life today. Not being down there. I did have a media badge granted by SpaceX, and so did one of our rocket chasers, Gavin, who's on a cruise ship in the Bahamas right now. If Starship had delayed 3 more days, he would have been there, but we'll maybe get to see some pics from on the cruise ship if he's able to see it. But we're only able to do this because of your guys' support, and your support just by watching, liking, and sharing. That's what makes this possible, and we are so appreciative of all of you. I think maybe if things are working, we might have... I think we do. I think we actually have our feed from Starbase. Let's patch this in. It is just coming up to sunrise, so we're not too late. Let me patch in this feed. I'm as excited as you guys are to see this feed. We want to give a huge shout out to John and Sarah, two of our new rocket chasers that are joining our team out in Florida, but are actually out at Starbase for today's flight and are getting this feed sent to us. We're excited to have them on the team and be part of this as we continue to try to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. Let's pull this up. It is sunrise, so it is going to be that fun part where we have a little bit of interesting coloration to the pad as we watch this. Bear with me one moment. We almost have it up. And there we go. That is a live view from Starbase, Texas, from our incredible rocket chasers, John and Sarah. Had a little bit of a pause there on the video. We'll see if that stays maintained. There it goes. It comes back. We'll, of course, patch SpaceX in as we get closer to liftoff here. But that is a live view of propellant loading underway down at the orbital launch pad of Starbase, Texas. And you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of Starship IFT-2. You guys have questions, you can send that in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. Real Space News, what do you think are the chances of it failing? I'm trying to be optimistic with this. I think kind of similar to Elon, if it gets past a point of if it gets past similar point to where it got last time, that's progress, right? It doesn't have to make it all the way to Hawaii for this to be a successful flight. The first flight was an incredibly successful flight for a first flight, though it was a failure. So that is a big thing to keep in mind in that case. But Jason, is England going to have a spaceport? The UK's got a couple in development. They've got Saxford, and they've got there's another one in development right now, and then they also have Spaceport Cornwall, which is the horizontal takeoff and landing. So there are options for those launch opportunities in the UK, and we are keeping an eye on those. We've talked with some of them and are excited to hopefully go visit some of them in the near future. You're just joining us, though. Welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX is counting down T-minus 51 minutes, 56 seconds, and counting to launch of Starship on its second ever integrated flight test. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage the like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us, and let us know in the chat where you're watching from. I'm answering your guys' comments and questions, as always, so you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We're going to run through a couple of the YouTuber things as we always do. If you haven't yet, head over to the store. You can get our limited edition ugly Starbase shirts, also available as a hoodie, a blanket, women's cut tee, and a kids cut tee. And we are guaranteeing delivery in time for Christmas. If Starship isn't your thing, I don't know why you're watching this stream, but we do have our We Are Going Ugly collection as well. These are limited edition. These will never be reproduced, and they're going to be available only till Christmas Day. But if you order before the 1st of December, you can get those in time for the holiday season this year, and all of that goes back into supporting what we do. And we're excited, new pricing, and it's a launch day, which means use promo code launch day and you get 10% off. Sounds like a win to me. We got lots of other things. We got our new classic TLP mug. Definitely check that out. New size, 20 ounces. Just to give you size comparison, that's a pop can. This is a really nice big mug, especially when you're like me and have the flu. lots of other stuff on the shop, and we're also expanding our print collection. So we now have posters and metal prints, and we'll be adding a whole bunch more over the holiday season. So definitely check those out as well. Also, if you haven't yet, take a moment and consider joining us over on the TLP Discord. That's where our community hangs out in between launches, and we sometimes do game nights, and that's where you can have the latest up-to-date about everything space. So the Discord link is in the chat there. Catching up on the questions, keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. 41 South is from Tasmania. Great to see you. Thanks for being here. Space Gamer, Kiev, Ukraine. Thank you so much for joining us. We are thinking of you guys as always. Jason, watching from the UK. Great to have you here as well. T-minus 49 minutes, 44 seconds, and counting till launch. You can see the beautiful sunrise now taking place over Starbase, Texas. We continue through the count. Dreamland, good morning. It's 4 a.m. It is 5:10 a.m. here. It's an early morning here for us, but it's an exciting morning, so we weren't going to miss it, and we're glad to have you guys joining us here as well. We're going to do a quick patch on the live feed there. Bear with me just a moment as we do so. They are out pretty remotely, so that does make it a little bit harder to get a stable feed, but an absolutely beautiful morning down at Starbase. You can now see a really clear shot of the tower there and the vehicle as we go through propellant loading. Real Space watching from New England, also sick right now. Well, I feel you. Feel better. Stephen watching in Sussex, New Brunswick. Great to see another Canadian. Bravo is still in Perth, Australia. Great to see you. Chaz is in Singapore. Hello, welcome. Please make sure the patch isn't low volume on the stream. The audio from the stream, they're too far away that you wouldn't actually hear something. So, but we'll patch that in closer to the launch for sure. T-minus 48 minutes and counting. The next major milestone we're going to be expecting from SpaceX is Raptor Chill. That is when both the engines on both the booster and the ship will actually begin engine chill. This is one moment that will happen 19 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. So we're less than now 30 minutes away from that beginning. Keep in mind today we are limited to a 20-minute launch window. That is something really important to see as we continue through the count following along with today's countdown. If for any reason we see them having to do some sort of delay, they do have to stay within that 20-minute launch window. Just catching up on the chat. You can keep sending in those comments and questions. We'll work on answering those live. If you haven't yet, also make sure you engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news update, or exclusive one-on-one interview. Later this week, I'm going to be releasing an interview that we had with the team at Stoke Space, talking about their new launch vehicle. Super excited to have that coming out. Got a little bit of a delay since I got sick, but we're excited to get that finally out for you all. You're just joining us, though, an absolutely beautiful morning down at Starbase, Texas. Both Starship booster and ship are well into propellant load as we continue through the countdown for flight here today. They are not attempting to recover the booster or the ship fully today. The booster will conduct a boost back flip and burn, and bringing it closer back towards the land of South Padre, but it will splash down, conducting a fake landing in the Gulf of Mexico. Starship, if they commit to taking it all the way around, will splash down in a belly flop maneuver where it will stay. It will not attempt to do the pivot at the bottom. It will just belly flop all the way into the ocean just to the northwest of Hawaii, and we do have a partner over in Hawaii that will be patching in for that if people are interested. I see some people jumping over in the live comms. Awesome to see you guys in there. Dreamland and Bravo, thanks for being in there. I'll try to jump in a little bit. And whoop, it looks like our feed dropped off. So we will work on getting that back up here in just a moment. Bear with us as we do so. Appreciate your guys' support. The way we were going to do it didn't catch in, so we went with the good old-fashioned send a YouTube feed to a YouTube feed as we continue. T-minus 45 minutes, 23 seconds, and counting till launch. You keep an eye on that countdown. We got in the top corner there, and then keep an eye on the side of your screen. That's where we're watching. That engine chill is really one of the last big events. Woofy, how high, just a guess, do you think the chances of a launch today, given the short window? I think the fact that they began propellant loading when they did is a good sign. I think that's a really big kind of point to how the countdown is going. So I think, yeah, keeping an eye on that will be the best kind of suggestion on how things are going to work here for today. And we got that live feed back, so gonna patch that back in as sunrise continues down on the Starbase coast. Cray, why was the launch delayed a day? Really great question. So I don't have a super heavy model yet. We're going to try to get that for IFT3. But when they did some final checkouts of it, they found out that one of the actuators of one of the grid fins needed to be replaced. So they destacked the ship. They had to take the hot staging ring off, and change out an actuator. And once they changed out one, we don't know for sure, but they ended up changing out 3 to 4 of them. So that's something that they are going to watch and kind of maintain as they continue into the count. But they replaced those, and ever since they have been proceeding towards a liftoff time here today. Ricky, what have they all done to reinforce the pad for this flight? They haven't necessarily reinforced the pad, but they have a proper water deluge system now. They did not have that last time. That was one of the biggest issues, was they had their smaller system, not their full system. So once that full system was there, we saw some static fire testing. It looked a lot better. The big thing... Excuse me. The big thing with the first flight is, from our understanding, if you think about, it's going to be hard to do with my hands, but if you think about the pad was like this, the sand, when they paved it, was like this, right? And then they put the concrete with the water system on top. Well, what happened is the sand started to, bowl under the pad. So when they fired, the concrete bent in. And it's actually now just come out in an investigation that it was equal to a volcanic eruption. The force that was happening under the pad. So that's a really big thing on how strong that ended up being. And that's why there was things that we didn't expect to happen, like debris and particles falling 5 miles away in the cloud, because the concrete and the sand was getting caught in the water particles and floating over to where we were. And ultimately, that's what got us sick. Isham, do you think launch is going to happen today? I have a good feeling we're going to get late into the count. I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm wondering if it'll be like the first time where, we got to 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then, we have something and they have to delay. But they want to be making sure this is right. They don't want to launch and have had the opportunity to pause. So that's going to be one of the biggest things. We are waiting to just get that feedback from Starbase, so bear with us there. We are also counting and monitoring the official SpaceX feed, and once it goes live, we will patch that in as well. We expect that to happen here in about 10-11 minutes, and that's when we'll really have a really great idea of how things are progressing for today. But 52 minutes ago, confirmation propellant load was underway on the Super Heavy booster, and 33 minutes ago, they began on the ship, which is right on time for that timeline that we have from SpaceX. John, how much water is vaporized during the launch process? That is a really great question, and I don't know if we actually have an answer for that. That's a really, really great question. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live. What is the duration of today's launch window? It is 20 minutes. That is the window they have for today's flight. Pablo, is this real footage? Yes, we will have a live feed for launch, and we'll be patching in SpaceX. SpaceX no longer broadcasts on YouTube. They're only on X, formerly Twitter. So that is something that we are bearing with, but we have a way of patching it in, and you'll be able to see that here on YouTube without having to go for any reason to Twitter or X if you don't want to. We're now T-minus 39 minutes, 45 seconds and counting till launch, meaning we are less than 10 minutes away from SpaceX beginning their live broadcast from Starbase, Texas. And we're getting our live feedback here from the beautiful Space Coast. Work on patching that in. Bear with me one moment. And there we go. There's that live view back from Starbase, Texas. A beautiful morning as SpaceX continues to count down to launch. T-minus 37 minutes, 51 seconds and counting. Sunrise is well underway. Propellant load on both Super Heavy and Ship have been underway now for, on the booster, almost an hour. For the Ship, just over half an hour. Thanks for bearing with us there as we got that live feedback patched in. We are ready to patch in SpaceX as well, so the moment that they go live, we will be patching them in and listening in to mission control as we continue through the count as well. It's a big day down at Starbase, Texas, where we are continuing to count down to launch of Starship. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live to the best of our ability. Make sure you're doing that tag there. It helps us out. T-minus 36 minutes, 54 seconds and counting. This gives me really similar feelings to what we saw on the first launch attempt on the first flight, where, you know, the first day, that Monday, we had some absolutely incredible views, and then we had to delay to the Thursday, and that was when the weather didn't hold out so good for us to have those live views. You're just joining us, though. Welcome. Take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us. While you guys send in some questions, I think one thing we'll run through is what we're going to expect during today's flight after liftoff here. If, as I will point out, if SpaceX says, if all goes according to plan. Obviously, liftoff is at T0, or liftoff, is at 2 seconds into flight, into the countdown. Max Q, 52 seconds into flight. Booster MECO, or main gen engine cutoff, will be 2 minutes, 39 seconds. We have hot staging, which will be when Starship ignites some of its Raptor engines while the booster is still firing, and it fires those engines to separate. The booster will then begin a boost back maneuver, continuing to fire its engines. That is when the booster will fully shut down, having completed its boost back. That'll all occur between 2 minutes 41 seconds and 3 minutes 47 seconds. The booster will go transonic 6 minutes 18 seconds into flight and begin its landing burn 6 minutes 30 seconds into flight, with touchdown in the ocean 6 minutes 48 seconds. So less than 7 minutes into flight, we are going to see the first ever landing attempt of Super Heavy, if all goes a plan. Starship will continue on its journey with engine cutoff 8 minutes 33 seconds into flight. And then at that point, it's a coast phase. Starship will coast until 1 hour 17 minutes, and that's when Starship entry will occur. Starship becomes transonic 1 minute 28 seconds into flight, and then 1 minute 30 seconds, exactly at 90. That is when they are expecting an exciting landing as Starship belly flops into the ocean. And we do have partners over in Hawaii that we will be working on patching in to bring us live views from Hawaii. It'll still be dark over in Hawaii, so we're hoping that we will have an opportunity to see that. SpaceX has begun their live feed, so we are going to listen in to SpaceX Mission Control as we continue to count down to launch of Starship IFT-2, launching from Starbase, Texas. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that subscribe button, share out the stream, invite people to join us as we get ready to watch SpaceX attempt to make history again, launching Starship on its second ever integrated flight test. You're looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas from Port Isabel, where things are progressing in the count as we continue to count down to launch. T-minus 33 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. SpaceX is ready. Let's listen in to Mission Control.
Your screen is a live view of Starship awaiting its second integrated flight test from Starbase, Texas. If all goes well, our Starship spacecraft and the Super Heavy booster, which we collectively call Starship, will lift off together for the second time in just 33.5 minutes from now. Thanks for tuning in. We're excited to be joining you from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California for today's flight test. Now, there's nothing quite like launch day, and especially so when it's a test flight. It just hits different. We're super excited to be here.
Exactly, Kate, and we're excited to be here to watch Starship, which is the latest and largest vehicle developed to date by SpaceX. And we're building it to fly exciting missions, to get massive payloads into orbit, to land astronauts on the moon for the first time in 50 years, and ultimately to get humanity to Mars.
But the fundamental revolution with Starship is that it's designed to be a fully, rapidly reusable, reliable rocket, or what we refer to as the 4 Rs. For those of you following along, you know all too well that Starship gave us quite a show during its first flight test back in April. After successfully lifting off and clearing the pad, Starship became the most powerful rocket ever launched.
But during the ascent, we had leaking propellant in the bottom of the booster, which led to sustained fires, loss of control, and ultimately a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. Of course, there's no test quite like a flight test, and our teams learned a lot, which began design changes and then ultimately hardware upgrades. That iterative approach is a big part of how SpaceX does development, and it's been the basis for all of our major innovations, including those on Falcon, Dragon, and Starlink.
I have to comment what gorgeous sunrise views we have here of Starship. Now, while that first flight ended in fireworks, it delivered valuable test data, which our teams have used to rapidly iterate on Starship's overall design, including significant upgrades to the ship, the booster, and the ground systems. Now, the most notable change is to the stage separation system, which will also be the most challenging part of today's test. We'll talk a little bit more about those updates a bit later in the webcast.
Now, in preparation for today's flight test, the vehicles have undergone dozens of individual tests, including a static fire on the ship, 2 super heavy static fires, and a final full wet dress rehearsal that we completed at the end of October, where we loaded the vehicles fully up with propellants and tested our new countdown sequences. And that brings us to these beautiful shots on today's flight test day. After 7 months of hard work by the entire SpaceX team, we're ready to give launch another shot.
100%. Now, once again, just like Flight 1, excitement is in the air. The electricity is certainly starting to grow. This is a live view of our Starbase Control Center known as Star Command. It is 6 miles from the pad. We also have teams gathering here right behind us in Hawthorne, California at our Mission Control Center. You can see the crowd gathering. It is an early morning, but you got to wake up early to get that front row seat. And we also have public gathering on the beaches at South Padre Island, as you see there.
And I can't say this enough, today is a flight test. While it's not happening in a lab or on a test stand, today is absolutely a test. And the goal is to gain invaluable data to continue rapidly improving Starship. So whatever the mission outcome today, excitement is guaranteed.
Now, if all goes well, Super Heavy will fire its 33 Raptor engines and lift off from that pad right there in Starbase. About 3 minutes into flight, we hope to see the Super Heavy booster separate from the ship in SpaceX's first ever hot stage separation. This means that the second stage will light its engines while still attached to a partially lit booster. If the ship's engines light, and if the whole thing holds together, its engines will remain lit for about 6 minutes before the coast phase.
Now, with those big ifs, if we get past a successful stage separation, the booster is going to perform a flip maneuver, then execute a boost back burn before it attempts a splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. In the meantime, Starship will coast for about an hour at altitudes ranging between 150 and 250 kilometers before it makes its own re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, and then ultimately a hard splashdown in the Pacific Ocean.
Now, again, if we get past a successful stage separation, Super Heavy will leave the ship at an altitude and trajectory just shy of orbital, meaning Starship won't have to fire its Raptor engines for a deorbit burn and will naturally come back into the atmosphere. Now, meanwhile, Super Heavy will attempt a landing burn before splashing into the Gulf. While the booster will practice a landing, we do not plan to recover any hardware from Super Heavy or the ship on this particular flight. Now, with the exception of Falcon, this really is no different than what happens to most other rockets flying today that are expended or fall into the ocean after completing their mission.
Now, even though we aren't planning recovery, the telemetry and data that we receive all the way to the end of today's mission is really what we're looking for, particularly with respect to temperatures during re-entry and how the heat shield performs. Much like our first test, we want to gather as much data as we can around the fully integrated vehicle in this flight-like environment.
Exactly. So let's talk about some objectives for today. The primary goal for Flight 1 was to clear the pad. We did that, and we got amazing data that helped us to improve the vehicle and pad that you see right there today. This time, on Flight 2, we're hoping to get all the way through stage separation, where we will try to perform this hot staging maneuver. In the bigger picture, ascent is the most critical objective today, and everything else is learning. Like I said last time, a few times, the further we fly, the more data we can collect.
Now, we do expect that the camera views will be spotty after stage separation, and that's because we rely on ground stations that are positioned along the globe along the trajectory. But we are experimenting with Starlink on both the booster and ship on this mission, which will be communicating with our satellites in orbit to see if we can get that data.
Yeah, so if we make it past stage separation, there is a chance that we could get better live views throughout the duration of the flight test, including re-entry, where we typically have a blackout period with no communication with the vehicle whatsoever. So all that said, this is the first time that the vehicle will attempt to communicate with Starlink in orbit, so no guarantees.
Now, we're at T-minus 27 minutes, so let's check in with John for an update on the countdown. How are we looking, John?
Thanks, Shiva. We're currently loading propellant from the ground system into both the first and second stages, and we're on schedule for launch in just over 26 minutes from now. Now, we delayed a day getting here. Yesterday, on Friday, we had to replace a discrepant grid fin actuator on the first stage. We also replaced 2 other actuators as a precaution. The stages were remated, checked out, and everything was go for where we are right now this morning. Now, as I mentioned, we are in propellant loading. Both vehicles, the first and second stages, use the same 2 propellants. Our fuel is liquid methane at a temperature of just over 100 Kelvin, or about 272 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. This is a different fuel from Falcon 9, where we use the RP1 kerosene. But our oxidizer is liquid oxygen, the same as Falcon 9. Because there is no oxygen in space to support combustion, we have to bring our own. We did the weather poll and the go-no-go poll at T-minus 2 hours. We got the goes, and we started loading both propellants on the booster at T-minus 1 hour and 36 minutes. And at T-minus 1 hour and 17 minutes, we began propellant loading of the ship, second stage. Propellant loading of the Starship second stage main tanks will complete at approximately T-minus 22 minutes, just a few minutes from now. And at about the same time, we will switch over to loading the header tanks in the nose of the ship. Meanwhile, it'll be T-minus 3 minutes when super heavy prop load completes on the first stage. And at that point, all propellant will be on the rocket, fully loaded with over 10 million pounds of propellant. As we near T0, it's worth noting that the timing of the countdown will be slightly different today. For Flight 1, we lit the engines and lifted off about 6 seconds later. For Flight 2, we aim to reduce that time by almost 2 seconds, shortening the period between engine start and liftoff. This will help reduce stress on the ground and the propulsion systems and improve the efficiency of the rocket. Now, right now, we're just inside T-minus 25 minutes to liftoff. The weather and winds are looking good. We haven't had any concerns there. The only issue we're working is getting the small boats out of the near range area in the offshore from Boca Chica Starbase. We do have the possibility of holding at T-minus 40 seconds as we're trying to get the last of the boats out of the safety area. Now, if for some reason we do not make our test flight today, we have a backup launch windows. This could be either 24 or 48 hours after today. It depends on how far we get into the countdown. But for now, everything's looking good as we've passed, coming up on the 24-minute mark. I'll hand it back to you, Kate and Shiva.
Thanks, John. Now, that countdown is continuing to progress, so let's take a look at and get more familiar with the vehicle there on your screen. Starship is the world's most powerful launch vehicle. It's currently currently with about twice the thrust of the Saturn V rocket, and with future engine upgrades, it will be 3 times more powerful. Those future improvements will allow Starship to carry 150 to 250 metric tons to orbit.
Now, for reference, Falcon 9's heaviest payload to date is about 17 metric tons. So we're talking about an order of magnitude more with Starship in terms of payload capability. And that matters because the amount of mass that we're able to launch per rocket is crucial to ultimately creating a self-sustaining city on Mars. Now, let's talk a little bit about how tall the vehicle is. The Super Heavy booster alone stands about 70 meters tall, and that's about the same height as a fully integrated Falcon 9. The height of Starship on top of it is comparable to that of the Statue of Liberty. But of course, the most technical length unit is that of Godzilla's, and we can confidently say that the fully stacked Starship and Super Heavy is at least 1 Mechagodzilla tall. It just so happens that we refer to the launch and catch tower at Starbase as the Mechazilla from the Godzilla movie, and you could see from that that the resemblance is quite uncanny.
Very, very uncanny. Now, the first stage, also known as the booster or Super Heavy, has a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9, and with 33 much larger engines. More engines means more power to deliver a massive amount of cargo to space. Amazing view here. This is a view that we don't have on our Falcon 9 missions. This is a view looking up under the Super Heavy booster. I love the shot. We can see all 33 engines there. Now, one cool upgrade on the booster's engines, we have a new electronic thrust vector control system, or ETVCs. We previously used the hydraulic system to control the positioning of the Raptor engines, meaning we tilted them in flight using pressurized fluid. Now, hydraulics are complex, and because they're fluid-based, they have the potential to leak. Not good. So switching to an electronic system means fewer potential points of failure. Also, we now carry less mass on the vehicle because we don't need to carry hydraulic fluids anymore. So good news all around. Now, the electric system has lots of benefits on its own. It only takes 30 minutes to activate for flight. It doesn't consume resources when inactive, and they allow for regenerative charging like a Tesla battery.
Yeah, all great things when you're trying to rapidly reuse a vehicle. Now, moving up, Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing on any hard surface. That's opposed to taking off and landing on a runway like aircraft do. And that's important because there are no runways on the Moon and Mars. The ship features 6 Raptor engines, 3 of which are sea level, and 3 of which are vacuum engines with an expanded nozzle, which makes them optimized to operate in the vacuum of space. The ship, at the top of the ship is featured with 4 flaps as well. This is a shot actually of the top of the booster where we can see the hot stage portion and the 4 grid fins. Now, those flaps on the ship portion help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric reentry and flight, and will enable us to do precise landings. The body of Starship is also wrapped in a heat shield that's made up of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles. You can see them wrapping around the top of the nose here and here in this shot of the flaps. Now, those tiles are designed to insulate the vehicle during atmospheric entry, where the temperatures can get as high as 1,500 degrees Celsius. And one of our test objectives today is to verify how those systems perform during reentry.
Yeah, now as Shiva mentioned, there between the ship and the booster, basically the top of the booster, between those 2 stages, that's our new hot stage, critical for our new separation technique. As we talked about earlier, we are constantly learning and upgrading the vehicle after we test. Now, this is a pretty exciting first for our team, as hot staging has never before been used as part of a reusable space transportation system, let alone on a rocket with the size and power of Starship. Hot staging is a significant change from Flight 1, and we're really hoping to gather data on it during this highly dynamic phase of flight, and that is, once again, assuming that we even make it that far.
Of course, let's take a closer look at what we expect hot staging to look like. Now, it occurs at about liftoff plus 2.5 minutes. At that point, the booster will shut down most of its 33 engines, leaving just 3 running, and the ship will ignite all 6 of its engines. Clamps will release, and then the ship will thrust away from the booster. Now, this is the first in-flight test of the heat shield on the top of the booster and the bottom of the ship, and of course the first in-flight test of hot staging, and we're hoping to gather a ton of data on it today.
Yeah. Now, stage separation by hot staging is somewhat uncommon in spaceflight, but it has been done before. However, today will mark the first time that a reusable space transportation system is attempting it. The Titan program did hot staging quite successfully in the early 1960s, but they were not concerned with reuse, so there was no issue when the Titan first stage took considerable damage upon ignition of the second stage engine. Now today, there is a good chance that our booster will also incur some damage from the second stage engines, but we need to test it out, see if the system can tolerate it, and collect data to learn how to do hot staging better next time, because ultimately, when successful, it could increase Starship's payload to orbit capacity by 10%. So more payload and more people to Mars. Hot staging also helps us maximize the vehicle's performance by leaving those 3 first stage engines on, so gravity can't rob us of precious velocity, or at least not as much of it. Hot staging also helps to ensure the ship's liquid propellants are at the bottom of the prop tanks, which is where we need that propellant to be in order to quickly light the ship's engines. Another reason to do hot staging, it reduces the risk at stage separation by moving to a passive stage system, deleting parts and simplifying, meaning physics is going to be doing most of the work instead of mechanical parts that would otherwise be pushing the 2 stages away from each other.
That's a great summary, Kate. And of course, this required design changes from Flight 1. The most notable of which is the interstage here. So on Flight 1, that interstage was completely enclosed. But for hot staging, the interstage portion between the booster and the ship is going to see dramatic increases in pressure and temperature. So we had to change the structure to include vents for the exhaust gases that the ship's Raptor engines will produce. Now, the 3 center engines on the ship actually gimbal, they rotate, and we're going to be gimbaling them outwards to reduce the forces that are being directly imparted on the booster and maximize the exhaust gas that's going through those vents. We've also beefed up the ship's space heat shield to withstand the higher temperatures and pressures. And for today's test, like really getting through hot staging would be a major milestone. There are some risks associated with this test, but of course, the ship and booster are going to be pretty far out over the ocean in the safety zone, and far away from people.
Yeah, regardless of what happens, it's going to be super exciting to watch. Now, in addition to the first and second stages of the vehicle, Starship has a third stage that we call Stage 0. This consists of the launch mount, the tower, and the tank farm, all of which you can see there on your screen, as well as the pad infrastructure built around the rocket. Fun fact, it's the Guinness Book of World Records holder for the largest launch tower in the world. What a beautiful drone shot that we have here. Also important part of the system, but less visible right now, especially because of the fog, is our new water-cooled steel flame deflector, and that's certainly a new upgrade for this flight.
Yeah, on Flight 1, the Starship's launch pad was damaged pretty significantly during liftoff as those super heavy Raptor engines fired their full thrust into the foundation for more than 12 seconds. So now we have a new high-pressure, water-cooled steel flame deflector system that we developed and installed between the flights, and there you can see the video of it dispensing 260,000 gallons of water. And that's designed to dissipate those loads from the Raptor engines and support rapid turnaround of the launch pad with minimal refurbishment between flights. Part of a rapidly reusable launch system also means the pad infrastructure.
Yeah.
We performed multiple standalone tests and have used this new system for both the Flight 2 booster static fire tests. And we've also reinforced the pad pretty significantly from Flight 1.
Yes. Now, also part of Stage 0, we mentioned before, the launch mount. Kind of hard to see there, but it's what the booster is connected to. Oh, here we can see basically the legs of the launch mount. This is what holds Starship and all of its mass. It holds Starship during ignition, right there at the Super Heavy booster. This is what houses all of the equipment needed to fuel the Super Heavy booster and condition it for flight, as well as all of those electrical, communication, and data connections between the ground and Starship. Bottom line is, it's an important part of how we talk to Starship on the ground and understand that it's really ready to fly.
And of course, the awesome camera shot there of those 33 Raptor engines.
Such a great view. We don't have that view for Falcon 9, so I love that we get it here.
If you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We're going to cut in really quickly. T-minus 14 minutes and counting. You are looking at 2 live views from Starbase, Texas, and these absolutely incredible drone shots. Because SpaceX owns this range, and this is their range, they get to do what they want. They are not allowed to do this at Kennedy or the Cape or Vandenberg, but we are so lucky that they get to do this out at Starbase. These are absolutely historic and incredible views as Starship is fueling up. We are now in those final minutes of the count. Raptor chill has begun on both the first and second stage of Starship as we're in the final minutes of the count. Right above me, I do want to shout out 2 of our TLP rocket chasers who are down on site, John and Sarah. So excited to have them here. That is our own live view from Starbase, Texas. We'll be keeping an eye on that as we continue through the final minutes of the count. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage the like button, share out the stream, wake up your friends and family as we get ready to watch history be made with the second ever integrated test flight of Starship. SpaceX is running through a little bit of their history of what they've done in their past. It all started back many, many years ago with the launch of Falcon 1, or the attempted launches of Falcon 1, but keep in mind, it took multiple launches from Falcon 1. They retired it, and then we got Falcon 9, and it's an incredible vehicle, and now we're doing it again with Starship as we continue through the count. We want to know from you in the poll 1, how do you think today's flight will go? So let us know in the poll in the YouTube chat. If you're watching on any other platforms, make sure you're sharing out the stream, but also join us over here on YouTube. That's where we do most of our live coverage. But also take a moment, let us know in all the chats where you're watching from, and share out those streams. We'll give some shout outs here as we continue through the count. T-minus 12 minutes, 16 seconds, and counting till launch. You're looking at a live view of Orbital Launch Pad 1 at Starbase, Texas. 2 incredible shots here as propellant load gets ready to wrap up as we go into the final minutes of the count. As we heard from SpaceX a few minutes ago, everything is green across the board for today's flight, and the biggest thing that they're working on is just clearing those last boats out of the way. I mean, these shots are just absolutely incredible. You can see there the fog and venting of the ship just lingering because it's the fresh morning, almost like a veil coming off of Starship. It's going to make some incredible launch footage. T-minus 11 minutes, 35 seconds, and counting to launch. We'll listen in back to SpaceX Mission Control as we continue through the final minutes of the count. Stay with us as we count down to launch of Starship IFT-2.
All right. Now, Falcon 9 has certainly come a long way, and Starship will too. But as a reminder, today is a test. We really hope to get to stage separation, but any data received will help us improve. It's the second of many future flight tests of Starship before it becomes fully operational.
And these flight tests teach us about the limits of our design. They help us improve our understanding of the vehicle, and ultimately will help us to make Starship more reliable and rapidly reusable. So again, whatever the outcome and however far we get today, we can promise excitement. So why are we doing all of this? Why do we need a rocket this big, and why does it need to be reusable so quickly? And that answer goes back to SpaceX's mission, which is to make life multiplanetary.
We aren't just building a new spacecraft. We're changing what it means to go to space. By building the most powerful rocket ever flown and a ship designed to carry people, cargo, habitats, satellites, and more, we're unlocking a future where our dreams of exploration will no longer exceed our grasp. And this mission continues with flights like today's integrated test.
And these are flights where we're going to fail fast, but learn even faster, where each time we're going to try something new while flying something that we've improved. And ultimately, that's going to build up a fleet to fly early and often as Starship rapidly evolves to become more capable and more reliable.
The first stop is our nearest neighbor, with a surface that hasn't seen visitors in more than 50 years. Under Artemis with NASA, Starship will return people back to the moon. After those first expeditions, we'll be ready to fly more people along with everything that it takes to build a moon base. Think about that. Hardware that will enable us to live on another world is sitting on a launch pad on Earth right now.
And the moon is just the proving ground. When the time comes to make that leap to Mars, everything gets ratcheted up by orders of magnitude.
The logistics of supporting an entire city on Mars are daunting, requiring millions of pounds of cargo flown from Earth spread out over thousands of launches. We just broke our own record for the number of launches in a single year, and we're going to break it again next year.
Now, in the years to come, Starship is going to dwarf those figures as we bring it online and truly make life multiplanetary. But for now, anyway, as the clock counts down to today's flight test, why don't we get another status update from John?
We're just over 9 minutes from liftoff as the countdown clock clicks to 0. Good news is teams aren't working any significant issues on the launch vehicle right now. Propellant loading is continuing on both the Super Heavy and the ship stages. Most recently, we began loading LOX and methane fuel into the header tanks on the Starship. And on the graphic on the left side of the screen, you can see up in the nose of the second stage, what we call Starship, are those two header tanks for fuel and liquid oxygen. Now that loading started at T-minus 24 minutes and will continue until approximately T-minus 5.5 minutes. Now Starship's second stage main fuel and LOX tanks are loaded for flight. And the second stage propellant that we're loading on board is going through the quick disconnect that comes out on the arm that's located at the base of the stage from the tower. Now on the Super Heavy booster, propellant loading will continue until T-minus 3 minutes. We've also configured the pad for liftoff. A little earlier in the count, the booster hold downs were commanded to unlatch. That means once the rocket has sufficient thrust to overcome its weight, it'll lift off the pad. There's no need to command the hold downs to release the rocket. As we mentioned earlier also, the ignition sequence has been slightly modified from the last flight for a more efficient liftoff. As a reminder, we ignite the engines a few seconds before T0. We don't lift off exactly at T0. We lift off a few seconds later, a couple seconds. Finally, the SpaceX team continues to check in with the Coast Guard to ensure there are no boats in the safety perimeter before proceeding with launch out over the Gulf of Mexico. Now, currently, we're coming up T-minus 7 minutes, 10 seconds to the test flight of Starship. Propellant loading is continuing on both stages of Starship. We're waiting now for the completion of loading of the header tanks in the next few minutes. The first stage is also beginning pressurization for flight while we are continuing to load propellant into it. And again, booster propellant load will finish at approximately T-minus 3 minutes. At that stage, both first and second stages are fully loaded, and we'll have the 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board the two stages of Starship. Now, in the next few minutes, the guidance system will perform its final alignment. We'll get the automated flight termination system that'll arm, and the final TVC checkout will be performed, we may get a view looking up at the engines as we gimbal the 13 middle engines to check them out just before liftoff at about T-minus 90 seconds. If we need to hold, it would come at T-minus 40 seconds. That's the point in the countdown where we can pause to wait for final checkouts or pressurization to complete. Or, as we're hearing right now, we're still working a few boats in the area that are headed south. And a lot of cheering here in Hawthorne. The boats are heading south, but we are still planning to hold at T-minus 40 seconds if necessary.
Just amazing views of today's launch. There's nothing quite like a launch at basically sunrise. Sunrise, I think, was just about 10 or 15 minutes ago out at Starbase.
Yeah, these views are just incredible. Couldn't ask for a more beautiful day to attempt a test flight here. Again, these are live views of Starship as it awaits its second integrated flight test. Our primary objective today is to get through stage separation. We really want to test out our attempt to perform hot staging, where we are going to ignite the engines on the second stage while some of the engines on the first stage are still lit. So essentially both stages will be making fire at the same time. And that will push the booster away from the ship. It'll separate the two stages. So that's the primary goal for today. We really hope to be able to test that out. But at the end of the day, all and any data that we can collect is going to be incredibly helpful and help inform future improvements and iterations of the vehicle.
Yeah, Kate, there are other objectives for today too, assuming we get farther than stage separation. There's goals to test out how reentry goes on the ship portion. If the booster survives stage separation, then it's going to try a boost back burn and hopefully a soft landing as a sort of dress rehearsal for what it would look like on land. So everything coming up to that big design change, though, of hot staging today.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, that booster, it will be attempting a water landing in the Gulf of Mexico. We don't intend to recover any of the hardware for either the ship or the booster today. But that booster, yeah, we want to try and demonstrate controlled ascent through most engine cutoff. We want to try to demonstrate that hot staging separation and boost back flip, trying to basically demonstrate controlled burn and entry and that soft water landing. Like you said, it will help inform when we attempt a land landing, but we start in the water first.
Exactly.
Just like we did with the Falcon 9.
Yeah, exactly. And, just getting to hot staging, though, is going to be farther than we got on Flight 1.
Yes.
Flight 1, that was about as far as we got. We didn't have hot staging on that vehicle. So that's the first and foremost objective today. Get that far, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Now, one thing that's a little cool about Starship, and it's different from Falcon 9, is we can actually hold a little bit longer if we needed to than we can on Falcon 9 missions. Once we get to T-minus 40 seconds, and if we did have a hold, depending on the reason for the hold, we can hold for up to 30 minutes. And today, actually, our entire launch window is about 20 minutes, so the whole duration would cover most of our launch window.
Yeah.
And that's different from Falcon.
Yeah, absolutely. With Falcon, we have to go exactly at T0. That 40-second hold is super helpful. If we need to, for example, we need more time to pressurize the COPVs.
Need to look at some of the data, see how engines are performing, or the avionics.
Exactly. Those checkouts, being able to have the opportunity to top off the fuel or LOX if it's not fully loaded. And, we might want to just take.
And if you're just joining us, we are at T-minus 2 minutes, 5 seconds and counting to launch. You're looking at 2 live views from Starbase, Texas, where Starship is fully fueled, ready for flight. We are going to go into the final 2 minutes of the count. As always, let's see that go, no go in the chat for launch. Engage to the like button.
You can see maybe just a little bit there. 90 seconds. Wiggles are underway as we're checking out the first stage. TVC checks are complete. Next major event we're going to hear, hopefully, is the flight director go for launch at T-minus 30 seconds. As we're coming up on T-minus 1 minute, when we get to T-minus 40 seconds, we'll just listen in. Last time, as you recall, we did hold at 40 seconds, but it took a few seconds for the clock to recover, so we're going to watch that. And as we press to T0, we're going to watch and listen the second test flight of Starship.
T-minus 30 seconds. Back to rapid recycle.
Back at Hawthorne, we're at T-minus 40 seconds in holding. We had a rapid recycle. We've not heard anything over the countdown net as the team works both first and second stages. We're going to monitor the nets here for a minute.
That audio should be a bit better there. Sorry about that. We are holding at 40 seconds. It sounds like they might be holding for a couple last boats. We're able to hold here for the full length of the window, 20 minutes. They're able to hold at this point actually for a total of 30 minutes, but we only have a 20-minute launch window.
Continuing to hold at T-minus 40 seconds. This is the normal hold point for Starship, as we talked earlier. Sounds like we're working just late pressurization on, I believe, the second stage. Team is working it. All the other systems are on hold right now at 40 seconds. We can hold here for about 15 minutes or so before we would run out of window for this morning. So right now they're working on filling pressure vessels. And ideally we'll be able to solve this and come back and release the clock at T-minus 40 seconds. We're going to continue to listen and monitor for another few minutes.
Keep a very close eye on that countdown clock in the top left corner of the big screen. That is the official countdown. We've removed ours just to make sure we're accurate. Also, this view right above me, this is coming in from our two amazing rocket chasers, John and Sarah, who are down on...
It's worth mentioning here that...
Who are down on site, so keep an eye, because there is always a delay due to X in streaming. So there is a chance that they'll kick off their live countdown, and we will see something be happening here before we see it on the main screen. But this is it. We are holding at T-minus 40 seconds as they work a final pressurization. We've got about 15 minutes we can hold here at this point, and the clock is running.
There it goes.
Clock is rolling. T-minus 30 seconds.
They're going for it. T-minus 25 seconds.
T-minus 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Vehicle pitching downrange.
Starship has launched!
Chambers pressure nominal.
T-plus 30 seconds into flight. We have 33 engines burning. All 33 are burning.
We are T-plus 40 seconds into the flight of Starship. 33 Raptor engines powering the first stage.
Power and telemetry nominal.
We've heard power and telemetry nominal call out. We're heading downrange over the Gulf of Mexico.
We are 1 minute into flight and we still have 33 engines.
And that call out tells us Starship is through the period of greatest stress on the way to space. Now the next major event is hot staging in just over 90 seconds from now. To get ready, the booster will shut down all but 3 of the Raptor engines. Clamps holding the 2 stages together will release, and the Starship's second stage will ignite its engines. Starship will then separate from the Super Heavy booster and head to space. And at the same time, the 3 engines that are still firing on Super Heavy will flip the booster around. 10 more engines will ignite for the boost back burn, putting the first stage on path for a splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico.
We are 2 minutes into flight and we still have 33 engines burning on Super Heavy. We're waiting for hot staging.
Engine power continues to look nominal on 33 Raptor engines. We're about to shut down the first stage and perform staging. Let's watch and listen.
Stand by for hot staging. They've never done this before.
And acquisition of signal Houston and New Orleans.
Booster engine cut off. Stage separation.
Boost back startup.
They did it!
Ship engine ignition.
You're hearing the cheering. The first ever successful hot stage for SpaceX's Starship.
Incredible views of our Super Heavy booster. And as you can see, the Super Heavy booster has just experienced a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. However, our ship is still underway with
Ship
all
avionics,
6.
power and telemetry nominal.
And we just heard there, ship avionics, power and telemetry nominal. All 6 engines are lit, as you can see from the GUI there at the bottom right-hand side of your screen.
That's what we wanted. Booster 9 did its job. Come on, Starship.
Now, we did know that the that hot staging was going to be incredibly dynamic. We knew that there was a chance that the booster would not survive, but we're going to take that data and figure out how we can make the booster better for the next hot stage.
Yeah, that hot staging put a lot of load on the top of the booster, and of course it flipped around there, a lot of dynamic stuff happening. But ship is still going strong.
And it's doing great. Right now, the ship, the second stage, is on its way. Like we said, you can see all 6 of its engines are ignited. The next major milestone for the ship will be the shutdown of those engines, or SECO, second engine cutoff, which if you follow our Falcon 9 launches, familiar terminology there. So far, today has been incredibly successful, even with the RUD of the Super Heavy booster. This is amazing.
Primary objective of the booster today, to get to hot staging, to get ship on its way to orbit. It did that admirably.
Yeah, we definitely asked.
Starship trajectory nominal.
All right, great news there. That trajectory for ship
Acquisition
is
of
nominal.
signal Cape Canaveral.
Once again, Starship's second stage is firing those engines. And as you just heard, everything's looking good. Now, for the ship, we wanted it to survive hot staging, which, as you can see there by that little dot on your screen, it did. We also want to basically demonstrate that the successful startup of those engines, demonstrating controlled ascent, which is what it's doing right now, and eventually orbital insertion. We are hoping to basically send this around the Earth And if it makes it this far, splashdown in the Pacific Ocean, a couple hundred miles north of Hawaii. Now, if we get that far, like all of that sounds great. Secondary objectives for ship, again, continuing to gather engine data and about its health, performance.
Nominal ship chamber pressures.
Great news there. That tells us that the chamber pressures inside of the Starship, again, that's that small dot on your screen, basically the propellant pressures in the ship are looking good.
Yeah, the bottom right corner of your screen, you can see essentially a user interface showing us which engines are lit. So the 3 center sea level Raptor engines on ship are gimbaling engines. The 3 outer engines in the triangle, the larger ones, are Raptor vacuum engines. All of them continuing to fire nominally. So they're at the pressures that we expect to try to get into our target trajectory today.
Yeah.
And re-entry. And so we're actually going in a suborbital trajectory today, but that trajectory will get us to the energy levels that we need at re-entry, where we can really stress that heat shield and get valuable data on re-entry. And those calls that we are still on a nominal trajectory here and seeing nominal pressures means that we have a really good shot of hitting our target orbit.
Yeah. Now, if the booster had survived, we would be around the time where it would be getting ready to land, performing its re-entry, but it unfortunately did not survive. That being said, that's okay. It survived several seconds after hot staging, so we're going to take that data and improve the hot staging sequence and probably improve the hardware itself for the next flight.
We are now 30 seconds away from booster cutoff. Had a mic issue there. My point about a minute ago was that's when... Oh. Stand by. It looks like we may have had an anomaly. 8 minutes, 16 seconds into flight. Let's wait for an update. That was about 15 seconds ahead of when ship cutoff should have occurred.
They're standing by for a call out here. Coming up on the projected time that ship would shut down its engines.
As you can tell by the excitement from the crowd here at Mission Control Center in Hawthorne, there's a great view of our Star Command Center. That's our control center at Starbase, Texas. The crowd here, Mission Control Center behind us in Hawthorne. Everyone is super exciting. What a successful day this has been so far.
They're still sounding positive. We're awaiting acquisition of signal here. This is via
up to this point,
Starlink.
Major successful milestones through hot staging, which was the big objective today. So we are going to head into the coast phase, planned for the next about hour and 5 minutes. We'll be returning around the T+1 hour and 15-minute mark. And that's while we're waiting for Starship to continue on to its next step for re-entry. We're not totally sure what video we're going to get, and that video comes normally by overflying ground stations, but we don't have a ton along our flight path. So fingers crossed that we will get some via Starlink on this mission since we're testing that out.
Well, it looks like it may have just had ship cut off early, which would mean the ship or the boosters performed better than they thought.
And also give us a moment. We are hearing some on the net, so we're going to try to parse that for you.
They're listening in for an update, but the hosts think we're in a coast phase. I think we did have a loss of ship, But we will wait for this. You're looking at a live view above me. This is a live view inside Mission Control. You can see Elon's brother, some other guests in the incredible launch control team. We'll quickly cut to this other view. That is a live view of the orbital launch pad still standing down at Starbase, Texas. Huge thank you to John and Sarah, our rocket chasers from Florida, who headed out to cover today's launch. Incredible tracking by John of the flight there. So thank you so much to both of them. Well, they're only able to get out there thanks to your guys' support. So if you'd like to help support what we do, consider hitting that join button. Head over to the shop, pick up one of our limited edition Starship IFT2 or holiday shirts. We're waiting for confirmation of how things are progressing. 11 minutes, 20 seconds ago, Starship launched.
Back here in Hawthorne at our webcast desk, we have lost the data from the second stage. We had heard a call out that we were internal guidance, which means we were getting near the end of the approximately 6-minute burn of Starship. But we haven't gotten any more data since then, so we think we may have lost the second stage. So we would not be into coast phase. We wouldn't be able to come back in an hour or so and possibly get ready for reentry. However, what we do know right now is we had an on-time launch at 7 o'clock. We got through the boats. First stage looked beautiful with 33 Raptor engines firing. We got the hot staging, the thing that we really wanted to see and impressed. We saw the separation. We saw the flip maneuver. We saw the light up of the 6 Raptor engines on Starship, and it headed away. Everything really looked good. But what we do believe right now is that the automated flight termination system on second stage appears to have triggered very late in the burn as we were headed downrange out over the Gulf of Mexico. But the real topping on the cake today, that successful liftoff, Kate, Shiva, the hot staging is just beautiful. Exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, ultimately, honestly, such an incredibly successful day. Even though we did have a RUD or a rapid unscheduled disassembly of both the Super Heavy booster and the ship, that's great. We got so much data, and that will all help us to improve for our next flight.
Of course, and that's why we flight test, and you can bet that there's going to be more to come. So we really do want to thank you all for joining us. Of course, we want to thank the people of Cameron County. We want to thank all the federal agencies that have supported us for our test, and of course, a huge congratulations to the entire SpaceX team on getting through this flight test today. And I think with that, we're going to sign off from here in Hawthorne.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
And there we have it, SpaceX wrapping up their live feed. We're going to transition there. There is a live view of the orbital launch pad at Starbase, Texas. If you haven't yet, 2 things really quick. Take a moment, engage that subscribe button so you can join us for the next Starship launch or any launch from around the world, and join us over on the TLP Discord. Starship launched again, an absolutely incredible first stage flight. Hot staging looked beautiful. The ship went all the way to the end. And like I said earlier in the stream today, I wonder if they would have a go, no go point that they would decide to not continue to Hawaii due to that safe zone for debris. And something triggered an automatic flight termination of the second stage, and Starship is no more. Both the first and second stage have exploded or had unscheduled disassemblies. The first stage, not surprising, first ever hot fire. Second stage was an automated one, which means the systems decided that's what was needed to be done. But absolutely a truly incredible flight to see, and we were glad to bring that to you live here. If you haven't yet, engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, space news and update, exclusive one-on-one interview, or more. I'm sitting down with Stoke Space later this week, so make sure you stay tuned for that interview. Also, join us over on our Discord. I'm going to jump over in live comms. We're going to kind of do a post-show hangout, maybe watch some of the photos and videos coming in from our team and teams around the world of the space community of today's flight. But a huge first right off the bat, congratulations to absolutely everybody who has worked on Starship. That was an incredible flight. Beautiful first stage. From the first flight to second flight, that Super Heavy looked like it had done this so many times. So I'm aware that my mic might have cut out there. When did it cut out? Someone want to let me know when it cut out there? Good old. We can launch rockets, but we can't work microphones. But thank you so much for watching. I'll just say what I said again. This live view is coming from our rocket chasers, John and Sarah, out at Starbase. Here at the launch pad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow. If you haven't yet, join us on our Discord, subscribe so you never miss another launch. But thank you on behalf of our entire crew for trusting us to bring you live coverage of Starship IFT-2. That's going to do it for us here today from our TLP Canada studio and from Starbase. We will see you on Discord, or we'll see you back here on YouTube for our next live launch coverage, because space is better together. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.